What up, Jody?
How are you doing today, Bill?
Awesome. What is up with all these plants you have here?
Well, last time we left off, we were talking about quarantining the new fish we got and stuff, and then we left off with quarantining new plants because I had heard about that.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. When you're going to bring in new plants into your aquarium, you're going to have snails and all these problems. So, what's your plan for today? We're going to talk about the different types of plant quarantine.
Yeah, just different ways you can quarantine plants. So I had plenty of plants around here that we could have used, but of course I had to go out and get some. I went to a few different places and got a few different plants, Bill. So we have a few things to work with, and it should be pretty fun.
It looks like you took more than one trip.
I did.
Yeah, I can totally associate with that. So, what do you usually do when you get new plants for your aquarium? Do you even bother quarantining them?
Well, Bill, actually, I really don't. I've done it a few times when I had scud outbreaks and stuff like that, and that's when I first started thinking about a way to remove pests and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I never really knew anything about it. I did put some plants in bleach a couple times and then
Okay.
rinsed them off. I don't know if that really worked because I still ended up having snails in my scud colony.
That's a really good point that there's so many different ways that you could actually quarantine plants, and what is a best practice and what do you do and where you're getting them from is all going to play into it. Are you getting it from your friend that I know exactly what's going on, or do I just take precautionary measures for everything? That's something for you to decide. But what I've done in the past is probably what everybody's done is tried bleach dips or hydrogen peroxide, and some plants just don't take really well to that. What have you tried?
Well, pretty much just the bleach or rinsing them off in tap water and stuff like that. I
Yeah.
looked into it a little bit before, and I did read about the hydrogen peroxide and the other ways, and that alum, I think it's called.
Yep.
And they just seemed like it would be a lot of work. So I just dipped the plants in bleach solution, and like I
And
said,
then
it
give them a
really
good
didn't
rinse.
work, and some of my plants died.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's pretty harsh. It's a harsh chemical. It does kill most things, but it may hurt the plant itself too. Until we basically, a couple of years ago, I stumbled on something called reverse respiration, which was a really interesting thing. And I tried it out a few times, and I brought it up and I said, hey, why don't we get some? It's used for cleaning the plants of any pests and problems, but also for algae.
Yeah, I looked into that too, and all the different types of algae that it can kill is neat. There's not too much information on this out there, so I did some digging as much as I could after you told me about it. Now, I did find a little bit of information dating back to like 2022 on Aquarium Co-op. It's extensive pages on it with a lot of comments. There's a couple users on there that seem to have taken it pretty far with some good solid information, but I had really never known about it before, so I did look into it. It was a good time looking into it, and I learned a lot.
Wow, I mean, I've seen the thread myself. It is very in depth. There's a lot of back and forth. There's counter arguments for it too, but I don't think there's anything that's actually perfect. But the extensive effort that was put into this process in order to make it something that would work really well, and also with proven results standing behind it. And as we all know, there's so many variables with what's going on. They don't think there's one thing that just basically is the godsend for everything. But if I could avoid adding crazy harsh chemicals to my fish tank, by all means, I'm all about that, and it's pretty cheap. I mean, so the process. Let's go over like what do you have to do?
I mean, it was really simple. I watched the video and I did a little bit of reading on it. So I went out and I got some plants, of course, a few different times. I got a couple dark buckets, a towel to cover them with later. You could use a lid if you want. I was
Yeah.
reading about that. I feel it's safer from what I read to use the towel because you don't have to burp it, or it'll just breathe and keep it dark. A few cans of seltzer water or
Or club soda.
club soda, and that's all you need in plants,
Yep.
in any plant.
Yep. Yep. So what we'll do is we'll put some footage in there of the before and the after the plants as we go through on the video. Now I've done this a few times myself with good success. And one time I did have a problem, but I think I was to blame really. And I contacted the people who had the idea of reverse respiration and put the whole thing together. And we'll put a link for them below. And they said they've only had a few complaints, and it have been with Vallisneria. So I think with sensitive plants, you got to kind of be more on top of it, and really because the process is for a short span for pests and stuff like that, but a longer span for algae. Um, probably a good practice is to make sure you're setting an alarm and getting them out in time, because that's where I made my mistake. I left it in way too long, and the plant basically just kind of dissolved after I added it to the tank, and within a week it was pretty much dead.
So I did quite a bit of reading through the aquarium co-op forums on this information, and one user, Odd Duck, seems to have been doing this for quite a while. Shout out to you for compiling the list. I saw some comments you made back to people, and I did not look far enough in there to see everything he had.
I mean, I really appreciate how much in depth a lot of these people went into it.
Yes, that's what I was trying to say. And one thing from my reading, it seems like the people who had the problems with the Vallisneria and other plants were not being time sensitive.
And I think that's why I said we have to take a lot of that information that we're reading there with a grain of salt, because I've done this many times, and one time I kind of just forgot about it, and it was the next morning, and it's been there probably 18, 20 hours, and then pulled them out, and they looked fine initially. It really was just in the long term the plant didn't pull through. Yeah, it melted. So it came out of the bucket, it looked fine, and all the other plants were fine. It was just this long valve, that it was probably a jungle valve that didn't really take well to it. And to its credit, it was from a auction, so I bought the plant and brought it into my environment, so that's stressful too. So there's a lot of things to look into. But really what I think, and after talking to them about it, was on my shoulders for really leaving it too long. And maybe if you have sensitive plants that are sensitive, probably I'd say 3 to 4 hours is good enough for any sort of pest, snail and stuff like that.
Yeah, I did read that too. And then the algae take longer. Of course, we all know how stubborn algae is and how hard it is to take care of at times. So it only really makes sense. One thing that I don't know a lot about this, and one thing I haven't got to yet is, how does it kill the snails?
I mean, I'm not a scientist. I'm not a biologist, but I would almost assume, because it's a suffocation thing where we've eliminated all the oxygen for the water, it's nothing but CO2. The snails can't survive in this submerged state. They have to leave the plant, and they're going to be trapped in the bucket, which is going to be low on oxygen because it's got a cover over it. So I pretty much would assume it's probably just oxygen deprivation. That's why
Just
it's
that quickly the oxygen is depleted.
Yeah, 3 to 4 hours. Because once you put it in there and it's off gassing, it's going to start, flooding the area with carbon dioxide. So that's a big part of it. Yeah,
this is the water I use, just plain seltzer water.
Yeah, cheapest seltzer water you can is fine. You can use regular club soda, and the difference really from like a non-mineralized water, it's like a sparkling seltzer. I think it is that club soda has minerals in it, and the seltzers, I think, is a purified, like an RO water usually.
Right on.
So, but for this short period of time, it's not going to really make any sort of difference. It's really what you can find locally. You said that you had to bounce around a couple
I did.
Couldn't
so I
even get
didn't know
seltzer.
that club soda was
you
the
weren't
same
sure.
also, and everybody was sold out. So then I thought I was going to make my own.
Yes.
And I was just going to use this, and I'm glad I made the call before, because, I listened to the pharmacist, and they said, sure, that's seltzer water. It's the same. But it's not, because I didn't tell them I was using it for plants.
Yeah, there's medications in there, and we don't know for sure. So it's kind of like, don't deviate off of the path and take risky things. And it's so cheap to begin with. It's not like it's worth chasing a couple of pennies. And unfortunately, there's not enough that we know it as individuals, the like biology behind things. So I would say let's stray from too much experimentation, because eventually it's gonna land in your fish tank with your pets.
Yes.
So
and this is something
this
that's
is safe.
proven.
Yeah.
So one thing I did find for myself, because I'm devil's advocate on everything, is the fact that every other aspect, the bleach, the alum, the vinegar, and the hydrogen peroxide, all could have adverse effects to your animals and to your fish and your plants. We don't want that. Everything I looked up on this just definitely said, I mean, it didn't say. There was none of that to back it up. I couldn't find anything wrong about this or people that really said anything about it. I did see a couple things here that I wanted to ask you about.
So, well, the one thing I wanted to say, which is what I really love about this collaboration between the two of us, is that that I had brought this up at the end of our last video about
Yeah.
quarantine plants, and then Jody had asked me on the side in a conversation like, what is this all about? I said, I think it's something that we should do because it's super interesting and he's never heard of before. And he dove deep and dug out a ton of information. And I had to cut him off on the phone before I said, you got to ask me live so you can get the answers. So,
Yeah.
so tell me what you got there.
So like I said before, I didn't find much information to not support the reverse respiration theory. Everything kind of just went along with it. There are a few comments out there, and I'm going to read one of them here without mentioning any names. The reverse respiration effect requires the CO2 pressure to be about 300% higher than atmospheric CO2 pressure. A manual CO2 administration would not be able to rise above the atmospheric pressure as it follows Henry's law, which demands equilibrium. In seltzer, it's pressurized such that it meets these requirements for several days until it goes flat. Okay, so I heard about Henry a couple different times, Bill. Who is Henry? What is his law? And how can he say it doesn't work?
All right, Henry's law. So Henry's law stipulates that any cup of water, any body of water sitting open on a table, my mics get all messed up. Any Henry's law states that anything sitting out open is going to eventually find equilibrium with the atmosphere around it. For CO2, Henry's law stipulates that you're going to hold about 0.6 ppm of CO2 in your water just sitting there. Now, your fish tank is going to be probably 2 to 3 ppms of CO2 just sitting there because of respiration of the fish, decay, other objects in your like wood that are just rotting and going to give off gas, right? This will rise that CO2 level in the tank. So even though Henry's law stipulates there's going to be 0.6, the water will hold some, and then depending on your KH is how much you will hold in that water before it changes the pH of the water. KH is your buffer, your stability. So there's a lot of factors going involved with what he's saying, and I'm not a biologist, I'm not a botanist, I'm not any of that. And so all I can say is from what my education is on this, that the rebuttal to that statement would be on the reverse respiration website that we put the links in the comments below, the under a microscope showing you the different cell structures of them using different types of bleach or hydrogen peroxide, whatever it may be, and then the reverse respiration and not showing any cellular damage. And I've done it myself and I've seen positive results with algae. Now, I'm usually doing it for algae. I'm not really worried about pest snails. I have snails in my tanks. I'm not trying to avoid it. So it's for somebody using it as a pest snail deterrent. I wouldn't be a total good test, but I have seen a lot of people say it does work and it kills off the eggs, because that's usually what happens. So you go over your plant, you look at it, you don't see the snail, but you put it in and a week later, it's a snail roaming around your tank. And if you don't have a predator fish, it's going to eat that snail. Then next thing you know, you're going to have a lot of snails. And then an abundance of snails is because of you're overfeeding your tank. But I'm a snail fan, guys. Snails are part of keep my tank clean.
Yeah, I have a lot of snails too.
So you told me you spoke to somebody on the phone trying to validate, the claims of reverse respiration.
I did. So like I said before, I looked quite a bit on the internet for stuff, and I couldn't find really a lot of information. The stuff on Aquarium Co-op, which we mentioned, and I found a place called Fins for Grins online. They were listed as one of the other sources. So I decided to give them a call today, and yes, they did know about it. I spoke with the lady Michelle there. She's the owner of it. They're in the Tulsa, Oklahoma area. Sounded like great people.
Yeah,
I went and looked at their website.
Drop a link in our description for them. Yeah.
Yeah, and so they basically had the same thing on their website as what I did. So
interesting, and that means that they believe in the process, and it's a cost worthwhile to them to bring a quality product to their customers, and that's the type of place that we want to kind of be related with. And people that are trying to bring a quality to the hobby, and this is a cheap, easy thing to do, and if your fish store is putting that effort forth, that's great. That's a
nice mom and pop shop in there on Sunday at their own shop.
Yeah.
You can do this for $1, you guys. 1 can of seltzer water is all you need. I didn't realize, and I went overboard and I got 2 cases. So yeah, it's okay. So we have water to drink now.
Pretty much.
So it's not like the chemicals. You don't have to worry about your water or what you're doing or how that rough. It's
Or
just
how much of a mix? Did I use too much bleach? Did I use not enough?
this is just
Yeah.
straight, right,
Yeah.
right out of there.
Yeah.
The science is into it. If anyone wants to go and look it up, they can go on the website for reverse respiration
Yep.
and Aquarium Co-op, because you can literally just probably go in and find out exactly how long each plant needs, because somebody's already done it and it's going to be good information that I would trust.
Absolutely. And I mean, if you go out there and you look at the Aquarium Co-op form and you start reading through this, set yourself some time aside because there's a lot to read, and you go in there and you can go check out Reverse Respiration's website and realize that all this has been done for free. There was no reason, and only until very recently did they have any sort of product for sale. And I think it's like $5, where the creators of Reverse Respiration now have watercolor charts for the API Master Test Kit, because printing on that is kind of hard. So what he's done is that he's taken actual pictures of color corrected picture of all the ammonia, nitrite, pH, low and high range, I think, and he delivers to you all those high-res photos so you can compare your reading to an actual reading, not a printed color. So here is a vial at 6.4 pH, and then you can compare it to yours rather than a printed color, so it's going to be much more accurate. So I mean, and it's not really, he's not doing it for profit. It's probably just more to be able to store and deliver, and things like this, just the betterment of the hobby, or things that we just want to bring to everybody that they could use. So for us to promote them is really a no-brainer, because honestly, these people went out, and all the people, not just the Reverse Respiration website, the whole crew, all the people in Aquarium Co-op forum that had put effort forth in multiple locations to kind of bring us a scientific class testing of an idea, which is really cool. And that's why we promote, fish clubs and stuff like that, because only with the combined knowledge of everybody can we really make huge strides in the industry and in the hobby.
There's just so much stuff that we don't know.
Yeah. I mean, when it's it's like, I knew about this. I'm an Aquarium Co-op guy. I learned a lot actually from them. But I brought it up to you. You've been keeping fish a lot longer than me, and you never heard of this. So that's why I thought it was a great topic to bring up, because even people that have been in the hobby a long time may not know about these things, and it's just that much better. And now you don't have to worry about ever introducing bleach into any of your tanks because you wanted to put a plant in it.
Yeah. Back to that test thing that you were talking about, with the API test kit. Everyone API test kits, I think everyone should have one. I just do. This is a good option also, especially after looking at it. For me, being colorblind, I have a hard time with some of the colors on the API test kit. On this one, I can see the differences a lot better, with only one exception, and that was the blue one for nitrite. For me, myself, that doesn't matter. I don't know when the last time I checked for nitrite is. I can see the first one on the chart, and then all the other ones might as well be the same. But everything else on there was so much easier. I've noticed with my API test kits, if I have two of them, and one's a couple years older than the other, and I mean, they're in the dark. Maybe something funny happens to them.
Yeah, they may get
wet. They're not always exactly the same, because I have to sit and do that, because I am colorblind.
Fussy, and get fussy with it to see exactly, and you're trying to set something up.
Luckily, I know my fish well, and I don't test a lot of water, but I can see where this is really good.
So Jody, I see that you took the Imaginarium 65. What is that? 60 breeder?
That's
the 60 breeder, and you put the logos in on it. That looks really great. But we need to make this thing look cool. What I think would be a really good subject is that we do some design in there with that tank and show you what really makes a fish tank look good. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out why I like what I like when I look at a fish tank. And there's a lot of science behind it, and it just made me setting it up and gives you really a lot of reasons why fish do better: stress relief, hiding spans, line of sight. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we'll go into.
This is a good idea, because this probably will take us into our next topic. we could maybe do a species profile or something
Yeah,
after that.
yeah.
So now we got to figure out what kind of fish we're going to put in there.
Yeah. Getting your fish tank to look its best.
I'll figure out the fish, you figure out the plants.
I'm on it.
Right on.